Welcome to BAASS Virtual Connect 2020 and our introductory session on CriterionHCM. I'm Nancy Pierce, your BAASS host for this session, and I'd also like to introduce Steve Kuhn, the Chief Sales Officer with Criterion. Steve joins us from North Carolina today. So our agenda for today is to provide an overview of Criterion and then focus on the self-service component and show how the system can help your organization with employee engagement. Just a reminder, and maybe Steve, you could move the slide along. So just a reminder that all attendees are on listen-only mode, but please post your questions using one of these methods that works for you, and we'll respond at the end.
Great.
And next slide, please.
Yeah.
Great.
So Nancy, thank you so much. To get started, just talk a little bit about Criterion at first, give you a little introduction, and then we're going to talk about this whole employee engagement and what it means to you as an employer, but also what it means to your employees. So what that, to get started, Criterion's been around for about 36 years, and all we've ever done is HR and payroll solutions. Now, up on the screen, you're going to see a list of everything that is possible out of the Criterion system. By no means is we're going to spend all the next 25 minutes or so going through all of this. There's actually several other sessions that'll break out some of the components as well. And there's even more after those sessions that you might want to engage with us and BAASS on. So to get this started, we have basically HR, talent, payroll, and time and attendance. And you see up there just an idea of all the functionality that's capable. It is a single solution, okay? So it's all in the same database. And that database is stored in Canada for all of our Canadian clients, so that you're able to access your data directly from anywhere that you have an internet access and capable device. That means by phone, by tablet, by PC. So that's in general who we are. And Nancy, if you want to take it back, I'll bring up the next slide to talk about engagement.
Thanks, Steve. So employee engagement, we know is very valuable. Engaged employees are more passionate about their jobs and the organization, and also they're most likely to stay longer. Their passion affects their coworkers, customers, and everyone they come into contact with. And I know we've all met people like this. When they're informed or have the opportunity to provide feedback or be supportive, and they have the ability to be autonomous, they feel that they're part of the community that's your organization. Engaged employees are more likely to be happy employees who contribute to the growth of the organization. They're less likely to move on and more likely to refer job openings to other good candidates. Reduced turnover is one of the many financial benefits to employee engagement. Increased efficiencies can also be gained through their investment in their own workplace. They come up with ideas to make the work go better. There are lots of ways to keep employees engaged, but especially in 2020, and we've found it's much more challenging with the increase in employees working remotely or telecommuting. Employees who work from home don't have the opportunity to pop into someone's office or get together for lunch with coworkers, and the bulletin board in the lunchroom is pretty much useless now. So Criterion is a perfect tool to keep employees connected by receiving emails or logging in from their smartphone, tablet, or computer. The area that we'll be starting with is the community feed that Steve's going to show in a bit, and that can be used for different purposes and for different groups. There's an option to allow employees to post a message and or enter responses, or just give them read-only rights. Our Criterion customers, I've seen using this for all kinds of messaging. There's posting employee changes, who's new and who's leaving. There's posts about new babies and condolences, job openings, and company announcements. I've seen great COVID-related information ranging from company policies, updates, tips on hand washing, and links to websites on how to choose a mask, which I actually did follow. Beyond the community page, there's lots of other ways to interact with employees in self-service. in Criterion. Calendars, including iCalendar options and various event calendars, for example, links to websites, documents, or forms for information. All of these items that we're going to be presenting in other sessions after this have a self-service component, including scheduling, timesheets, time off, benefits, pay, learning and performance, and recruiting. So employees can be allowed to see and perhaps change their personal information as well in self-service, and managers can delegate others to fill their roles while they're on vacation.
Excellent. So I'm going to take a minute to get into the software, and as we do this, I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the configuration options that you have as we move through this, because the whole intent of the Criterion HCM solution is to give you flexibility. And flexibility starts with just simply signing on to the system. You should be seeing on my screen a sign-in menu that gives me the ability to sign in to employee self-service. Actually gives me the ability to sign into the entire solution with a single sign-on entry. This sign-on entry is recoverable, just like you have in other sites where you forget your password. You can click here and the system will walk you through restoring your password so that the administrators don't have to get involved. You'll also notice here that you can download apps directly off of Google or the App Store from Apple, and we'll show you a little bit of that as well when we get into the software. But this site becomes your site. You'll notice here the Criterion is up in the left-hand corner. There's a splash screen of an office and so forth, but this becomes yours with your logo, your pictures, your URL, because it is your system. So simply by signing in, I'm going to be presented with self-service. Now today for our presentation, we have turned on quite a number of features for you to see. However, you as the administrator have flexibility in deciding what shows and who that shows to. For example, I've got a number of different tiles that are set around, one called attendance, time off, my pay and events going down the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, there's tasks, time offs, and external links. And those are all optional features that can be flagged to be on or off, as well as the center, which is what Nancy was talking about briefly, is how do you get information out to people so that they do continue to feel engaged, even though that they're working from home these days. And that feed becomes very important on how you get messaging out. Whether it's a standard message that you want to send to all employees, or there's certain messages that only groups of people get to see, you have that flexibility in deciding who sees what and when. You'll notice as I scroll down, this is a global announcement that goes out to everybody in the organization. Or maybe there's simply a message for new hires that as they come on board, they get a special welcome. And you'll notice here that there's also links, attachments, and then you can make it more social media, if you will, by looking for likes and replies and things like that. So that it gives you the flexibility of deciding who sees and does what on the system or on those feeds. Now, as an administrator, you're able to post any number of different feeds, and then you decide the rules on that particular feed, whether those things happen or not, or absolutely you can turn off the feed entirely and just use it for another time. But you'll notice here that this is very graphically displayed. There's all these little boxes or tiles, as we like to call them, and they all identify certain functionality that you can use to help keep those employees engaged. From one of them, you'll see tasks. Tasks are things that typically are going to roll through a manager or an administrator. These are all related to functions that you can do in the system. You'll see here like time off request or timesheet submission. These will be covered in a different session. I'm not going to go into them right now. So is performance and onboarding. So these are just some of the functionality that you can do to use to get people engaged. Now you also notice this nice little tier of icons. And the reason we did this is we decided that there is a multi-generational situation, if you will, going on, that there are very much groups of people are very attuned to being able to, use an icon and determine, aha, this is a clock, it must be related to time. Or this is bank, so it must be related to pay information. However, there are other folks that would prefer that information, and so we give it to you in both an icon and a text so that your employees can decide what best way for them to receive that information and figure out where they are and what they can do in the system. As we come down here, we'll notice a few things. I'm just going to click on a couple things because engage people, get them interacting, okay? So one of the things you may want people to do is, hey, tell us about your career, your skills, and your certifications. Well, there's no point in handing in paper. Have them add that skill, okay? Or have them add that certification. Simply come in here and do an ad. And it'll go through an approval process. People won't be able to put up things that are, that they don't have the skill. There's a vetting process that should go on. And you're able to do that through what are called workflows. Okay, so then you also have certifications and so forth. It will operate the same way. Put in a certification, put the expiration date. You need to track a commercial driver's license, a work permit, things like that. Have people do that. They can also take a picture of it and send it to you so that you have it on file. They've got all the information about their work life here with the organization through their employment information, their various positions, their position history, and they can update. So they can make changes to their address, their dependents, their emergency contacts. You can have some of this go through workflows. Some of this automatically just gets updated in the database. For instance, people can move. They change their address. That's fine. We don't need to know about it. Okay, but maybe if they change their cell number, that's more important. Maybe that needs to go to their manager first so that they can upload it into their phone and then send it on to HR. There's other things around calendars. So it's easy enough to build calendars so that you can keep track of various things about your training, your time off, your team's time off, okay, so that you can look at all of these things as well. And then we get into resources, and this is really key, giving people one place to go to get all the information that they need, okay? So one of the things is in company documents. Put all these company documents out there. People can download this information. They want to know about the company. They want to see how that they can get questions answered. There's what does the company feel about, as Nancy said, about COVID? What's the process? Give me some pointers. I'm hungry for information. Push it out to me. Okay. There's also things like company videos. Well, this is nice. You can send out videos. The CEO has a nice letter or, a video that he wants to record or she wants to record and send it out. Great. There's a way for it to go. And you can keep it stored here for as long as you need to because we don't restrict based on the size of the documents and so forth. And then we also have things like reports and forms, org charts, so you can see where you fit into the organization. Here's my guy, and he knows he reports to Stephen. Well, who else reports to Stephen? Well, this other guy, Kai. And so we can go back and back and back and see how that whole organization change is and how it affects me. Or maybe I need to get in touch with somebody and you can give me access to the company directory. Little things like that allow you to get you don't have to do phone calls. You don't have to do emails. Who do I need to talk to? Okay, and then there's other things you can do about giving access to my own documents. So as I come in here and I've filled out documents, I've got the ability to come in here and search through my files, depending on my security profile, of all the different items that I've either completed over time or have just been stored in my file based on who I am. It could be my resume, it could be my offer letter, it could be different things about me. Now you'll notice here that this individual has access to multiple tabs or files in their employee record, but that's because of their security profile. If we were moved to another employee, such as this one over here, this Jeremy, he has limited access because he is not, he has got just simply the default in the onboarding and personnel file. So you have all this flexibility in how to do this. Now, one of the other things you can do is you can do little surveys for people. You can push out these forms to people. And you'll see here, this is a form that, Jeremy has been sent. Now, Jeremy gets a notice. Hey, you've got an alert. You've got a form to fill out. Let's take a look at that. Okay, and this is just a quick little survey that you can build right in the software. And when you do that, it brings it up right here. And this is something that I just did. And there's just relatively few questions. How you doing with COVID? Yes, or, fairly well and a little stressed and so forth. Have you, immediately if family been affected, add some comments, and then submit the form. We use an HR person can take all these forms that come in and then consolidate it simply and give yourself a graphic of really what's going on in the organization. So you can see here of the responses, we're going to get breakdown of a little bit of, who responded and what they responded to. And if need be, you can get the detail around that so that you can contact specific individuals if you feel like that there might be, a need for employee assistance there. Okay? So there's a lot of ways that you can maintain contact even though people are spread out throughout the country or out the province and so forth. And then, last but not least, you're able to do this on your phone. Excuse me here. I thought I had that set up just real briefly. Let's just move this real quick and switch this over to the phone. So now I have the ability to do many of those same functions just simply on my mobile device. So that could be an Apple or an Android, and it's just a matter of coming in here and seeing all that information about my information right here, my demographics, my address, and so forth. All right, you can also see all my communities or my documents, getting into those different files. So I have access to all this information, even though I'm just on a basic mobile device, to the point of being able to come in here and saying, oh, I've got some other things I can do, like approving time offs as well as approving timesheets. I don't have to be at my computer in order to do those types of functions. So that's a general overview of things. Nancy, have I missed anything that you think I should go back and point out?
No, Steve, you covered a lot of items. A couple of thoughts I had was about the handbooks and how I've really seen organizations start to break those down into smaller bites. We used to get handed out that the company handbook that was a fairly large package and maybe bound and in several pages, and we'd all promptly lose it. So having those broken down to smaller pieces, they could be documents, they could also be videos. For that new employee who says, And back in the days when we used to go into the office, is there a casual Friday? Can I wear my jeans to work on a Friday? They can quickly go and look that up, and instead of having to plow through a large document. So that's just a little tip that I found really has been helpful, and especially for the telecommuting employees to just quickly go and find something that they need, about their job, or even little training videos. If you have a new application you're using something for, then little training video on that, just to remind the existing users how to use it, or for new users. So it's great information that they can just come here on that one source of information. Mhm.
Well, and even if you don't have the information, but you want to steer them to where the information is, you can always put in those external links. And that way they continue to come to one place to find all this information, even though it's not your company information, but you want to steer them to the right place. You can use those external links as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I like that you can turn things off and on so the employees don't see things that they aren't allowed to go into. They just don't have access to it. They just don't know it's there. And you can do that for different types of
Exactly.
employees, right? So your
Yes.
managers or your executives can see things differently than just just their employees. That's great.
Well, and one other thing about that as well is you'll notice here that I signed on, and even though I'm a manager, I don't have to go somewhere else to do things, because you'll notice here that I've got my information, but then I've also got my team information. So it's not like I have to go one place to do my work and then another place to do my team's work. It's right here for me, and it's all logically just grouped together.
Yeah. And the other point too, just to add to that, is the HR administrators as well. They're an HR admin, they might be a manager, and they're an employee. They don't have to have various logins. They just log in the same way, and they have access there in the background to all of their administrative tools. But it's not switching hats, really, basically, with different logins.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm. And I also, Steve, I'm not sure if you touched on this earlier, but as far as Criterion goes, it's a cloud application. But for those customers who are interested in having the data on their own servers, even though we do host the Canadian customer data is hosted in Canada, that's an option as well. We do have some organizations who even are down in South America who are interested in having something installed on their own servers just because of issues with the cloud down there. So that's an option as
Mm-hmm.
well. And the open
Yes, it is.
API, yeah, open API where it can integrate, and we're going to touch on that in subsequent sessions, integrating to other components that you
Yes.
might not want to replace. So we've got a couple of questions that Haley's posted. Does Criterion provide templates for those company documents to get us started? So if they want to do company documents, are there any templates there?
Oh, are you talking about, like, say, a template for like an employee handbook or something like that?
Or even,
Is that kind of, do you think?
it might be, or I'm thinking also forms, um, if they actually have some
Well,
fillable forms right
yeah.
now.
Oh, well, we do have, several forms, fillable forms, and and a good example of that is a TD1, that we already have for the system. So, but we also have a bunch of forms, and that's usually where BAASS and Criterion work together. Is give people options, show them what they can do, and then also provide them some samples.
And also, you can just import your fillable PDF form and start assigning fields to that if you want, or even just have people complete it as it is online, but it converts into a Criterion form, which is pretty cool.
Well, yeah, you can do both of those as well. Just import your PDF, make it fillable, signable as well, because we do electronic signatures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then they're routed through the whatever workflow is appropriate and goes into their employee file.
Great. And one last question we've got here, does Criterion integrate with Sage 300? Yes, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of that in the time and attendance. In that session 3, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I also see a question on how is Criterion sold, and really because it's cloud, it's a subscription based, and it is a per employee per year cost, and different modules. So as Steve had shown, really the panel at the front, there's the HR and the payroll and talent management. They're all separate modules. You can just tack them on when you want to, or buy all of them right off the start. You can do a phased implementation, of course, on those as well. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. Haley, do you think we'll wrap it up now? We're on our time mark.
We did have one more question. What other formats of videos can be uploaded? Other formats, YouTube, like what other formats are compatible with Criterion other than YouTube? Or is it just YouTube?
Oh, no. This just happens to be. I used YouTube simply because it's an easy thing to find a sample of. But as far as MPEG files and so forth, all can be uploaded into the system. I just use this as an example.
Amazing. So with all of that, thank you so much, Stephen and Nancy, for walking us through.